Hello, I'm Bliznub and welcome to Building the Best. Today we're going to be looking at the Synoid Simulor and the Rakta Cernos. Now the first thing we want to do of course is compare the Synoid Simulor to the Simulor, which you get from Synoid Simulor, and we can see that it's pretty much a flat upgrade with buffs here to reload, magazine and fire rate. The fire rate actually is a very important buff on this. And the damage per stack is identical, it's just a narrower band of damage which you can achieve. It's pretty much identical damage if you look at the numbers. Anyhow, let's build this thing. Now it's a strange weapon because it deals damage per stack, dealing this number when you add to the stack, and I believe this number when you detonate, but truthfully the information on the wiki is unclear on that, and I've looked around a bit and I haven't found any solid facts, so I'm going to just rely on trying to increase the per stack damage as much as I can and get a bit of element going on as well. So of course we're going to go Serration Split Chamber to start off, and we want to build this weapon elemental but not status chance, as the status chance is relatively low. So what we're going to do is steer Cryo rounds and Hellfire in here, heavy caliber in there, and we're getting Magnetic Blast, which is a decent combination, but I'm going to finish this off actually by taking off that Hellfire. This Magnetic Cold is a very good combination, and Magnetic Heat is so-so. And we're going to go for Corrosive damage to finish it off, which is of course Malignant Force and High Voltage. So we're getting Corrosive Magnetic, which is a very good combination, and Cold hits everything, I believe, which Corrosive and Magnetic do not. All in all, this should deal with pretty much everything, which is what we're going for here. This is an AoE weapon. We want to be able to deal good damage to practically everything we throw it up against. I would say, however, that if I could formula this a few more times, I'd stick a Hellfire on and probably an Infected Clip or Stormbringer for the high voltage. So let's go try this thing out. And honestly, this thing's only real purpose is in defenses, as this is a weapon that creates a vortex, much like Vorbun's, in a set distance from you. So it cannot hit enemies right next to you unless you fire and immediately detonate, but then you get the minimum amount of damage possible. And truthfully what you want to do is set up a vortex, as I will show in a moment, and let it deal damage per second to the enemies, detonating it if you absolutely have to for the additional burst damage. It's a little unfortunate we're on this map, but oh well. So as you can see, you fire one round and it sort of hovers in the air about 10 meters from you. You fire another, creates a little vortex, and you can keep adding to this. It maxes out in size fairly quickly, and then adding to it simply increases the duration at which it stays. And every time you add to it, it does that as per stack damage we saw and the elemental damage we saw. I shouldn't have taken my new Sentinel with me, he's killing everything. But the point I'm trying to get at is this is great for defenses, dealing all-round damage, but it's only really useful against infested. The Corpus aren't going to run straight up to the pod like this, so honestly I don't see this weapon being that usable in varied combat. I seriously doubt I would ever see one of these in a raid. Tower 4 survivals, I've seen them kicking about. Sorry, Tower 4 defenses, I've seen them kicking about a bit. And Tower 4 survivals, obviously, if you're camping, these will see some use, as people love area of effect weapons with a vortex effect. Anyhow, there's really not much more to say about this. Oh, except quickly touching on the Cephalon Suda Syndicate bomb, which is a magnetic bomb in theme with the weapon, and restores 25% of your energy immediately on bomb, and then gives you a 25 boost to your base energy amount, which all in all gives you an awful lot of energy, but I still don't see I still don't see the usefulness of this weapon in any actual combat, as you cannot hit something close to you and you cannot hit something more than about 30 meters away either. Deploying a little defensive area, sure, but most frames have abilities for that. Anyhow, let's move on to the Rakta Cernos, which is a lot more interesting to me. Now, this is of course an impact weapon, which I don't like, as puncture is very useful against Grineer, and slash is incredibly useful against infested. Impact only useful against corpus shields, and not the corpus health and armor, but we're going to gloss over that because it actually has the highest base damage of any bow, apart from the Daikyu, which I covered last week, which has 210 and 70 in slash and impact, whereas this has 225 and just a smallish number in the other two stats. What we're going to do is dive straight in, give this thing a serration and a split chamber, of course, and a mod I honestly don't play much, Crash Course. And whilst this doesn't have the same crit chance as the rest of the bows, it's still 35% crit chance, and we absolutely have to use that to get the full potential of this weapon. So we're going to put on Point Strike, Vital Sense, and Hammer Shot. There it is. So we're getting 5.6 times damage, which as I say is not as good as the other bows, but still nice, and we should definitely use that. And 87.5% multiplier. Now, I'm actually debating putting on a heavy caliber instead of that hammer shot, but we're going to leave it like this for now, and instead put on a shred if it will fit. Now this weapon has, of course it's on the vol clock. Glad that reminded me though. Let's take off my sentinel. Now this weapon has passive punch through. I'm not sure on the exact figure. I think it's just under a meter though. But shred will of course improve it. And this weapon has the fastest charge rate of any bow in the game. And honestly, there is no point to make this faster than 0.2. It's 0.3 as standard. And at 0.2, you barely have time to think about drawing back the bow. By the time you've realised the bow is fully drawn, you can fire, if that makes sense. You click and then you fire. Any faster than this, and I have tried putting shred serration and vial acceleration on. Sorry, not shred, speed trigger. And it's simply, you cannot click that fast. It will fully draw on every click. And bows are not meant for that. They do not have enough ammo capacity to be constantly pumping out rounds. You need to take your time with your shots and go for killing 1-2 enemies with each round. And I'm going to demonstrate that by going on a stealth run with my dear Loki here. And I'm feeling an exterminate mission on Pluto, if there is one that isn't covered. So let's go for a nightmare exterminate and just hope it isn't energy that they're taking away from me. Now, like I say, the Rakta Cernos I'm surprised by, because the Cernos is without a doubt the worst bow apart from the Mark 1. And vampire mode, delightful. And this is a brilliant weapon. Honestly, I will happily compare it to the Paris Prime and say it's up there with that weapon. It doesn't have the same crit chance, and of course it's not dealing puncture, but it's dealing the damage and it's dealing it incredibly fast. As I say, I've just got shred on, not speed trigger, definitely not vial acceleration, and this thing is dealing plenty of damage and dealing with level. Okay, I lie. Forgot it was impact damage for a second there. Of course, with Corpus, if you have impact damage, you should go for the helmet always. Body shots will not kill. They will, of course, kill the robotics, but not the Corpus crew. As I will attempt to demonstrate, yeah, by one-shotting the Corpus tech. What was I saying? Yeah, I would happily compare this weapon to the Paris Prime in terms of damage output, simply because it has this ridiculously fast draw speed. The actual reload speed is not improved that much, but the draw speed makes it far more usable in everyday missions. I would be surprised to see this kicking about in a raid, but I definitely wouldn't complain. This is a very good all-round weapon, and I believe if you were to put a... Of course I've been locked out. If you were to put corrosive damage on this, it would be good against enough different enemy types that you could comfortably take it to any mission. Of course I'm taking it up against Corpus here because that's what it's best against. I realised they didn't lock me out. Something somewhere broke a window. Probably me with the syndicate bomb on this weapon. The syndicate bomb on this is an odd one. I've not seen anything quite like it, apart from the other Rakta, of course. It's a viral bomb which restores 25% of your energy and then gives you a 10% boost to your base movement speed. I was about to say I'm fortunate I didn't blow out a window, but I already have. So yeah, I am pleasantly surprised by this weapon, and truthfully it is also the prettiest weapon which has been released recently, and I think this could definitely see very, very many former from me. I'm thinking 2 to make a nice build, 4 to make a perfect build, and I may well cover this again if I do that. Anyhow, this is the Rakta Cernos. Absolutely beautiful weapon doing beautiful things to the corpus. I'm Bliznub. Thank you for watching. Please check out my other videos if you're interested. Leave a comment down below. Like and subscribe.